Homebrew Tavern Tales, and today we're doing a session on how to create a campaign. I will be doing a campaign which I have called the Iron March. It's something new. I have pretty much only come to the second session. So with that, I will just be trying to show you guys how to build a campaign. Feel free, chime in if you know what you want to ask questions, ask them. If you're a DM, feel free to jump in and tell me what you think. If you're a player and have questions, want to understand something, let me know. And for the rest of you, keep the conversations casual and ask questions if you got them. For now, let's jump in. Oh, and don't mind the noise in the background. I have more sound going on. All right. So, Iron March. Now, as it states here, I have the party returning to Bastion Drath. Bastion Drath is a city that you start at. This particular campaign is kind of dark, gritty. The best way I can put it is it's a mix of Full Metal Alchemist meets Fallout meets Attack on Titan. So it's got that darkness to it. And Bastion Drath is an outlying city that is exploring the frontiers, exploring the world around them. The world had been sundered, and the party is part of a group called the Iron March. And they're out there exploring the world to try and find the history that they've lost and just see what's going on and if they can't expand their territories. They're finishing up their first mission. In fact, when we play again, they'll be finishing up completely and heading back to town, as it states. They'll have the new view of the world as they are just entering it, so they've already had some fun with this. Now, one of the first things I need to do is figure out how they're going to get there, who they're going to talk to. I have some of the NPCs already figured out, so we can work with them. You'll have to forgive me. I'm going to be switching through some of my screens here in order to do this. But one of the first things we're going to do is when they get back, they're going to have to report to their commander. Now with that, the party gets to choose how they want to explain it, what information they want to talk to them about, and whether or not they want to share all of the information. During their mission, they were also traveling with a automaton companion, or more appropriately, a Eberron Warforged. But I call them automatons for this particular campaign. And the automaton was their guide, was their trainer, as it were, on their first mission. So we'll see what happens from there. And I think one of the other parts that they need to know about here is so part of the mission they're on right now is they're trying to find a previous expedition that went out there and had been missing. So with that, they're going to have to bring that information back, but something happens during that time. I can't give all the information because the group is still playing. They're not finished with this particular mission. I don't want to give all of it away. But when they come in, they're going to come back with an item. And this item is going to have a major theme to the rest of the session. So we're going to have to figure that out. So report to the commander, see what happens to the item that was created with the previous expedition, and their downtime. Do they rest? Do they train? Do they explore the city? Now, exploring the city, that can be anything from just seeing what things are and where things are not, as well as just going to the barracks and talking to NPCs. Training, Something I like to do here is this is kind of militant, so they could go through and practice their fighting skills, they could practice their magical skills, they could practice defensive capabilities, they could even practice leadership. It's up to them what they want to do for the training. And something I like to do is if they train long enough and with enough purpose, they can gain skills and knowledge about the world and or just how the world works. So, oops, caps lock's on. And something else is they can train with each other, so they can also learn things like new languages. Interesting note, most of the players in the campaign are new, so they're all learning along the way. And some of them might jump in and actually see what's happening here. So yes, you're getting a preview of your next session. All right. Resting. That one's just plain and simple rest, seeing what happens from there till their next mission is given to them. So that leads to barracks. Oops, barracks. Barracks, personal homes, or other locations. Some of the backgrounds, they're established in Bastion Draft. Some of them are not established. So they will have to find out how they fit into all of this. Okay. Going to the commander track. So commander is going to want to know what happened to the other expedition, as well as what happened in the ruins. So one thing about this particular world is there are ruins and they're scattered throughout. So think of it like Fallout, where you're going to find the vaults. In this case, not so much vaults, but just leftover remnants of a previous world before the world was sundered. And they're exploring these ruins to see what they can find. Some of them are docile, some of them are violent, some of them are just repositories of information. And others, the world is taking over and trying to assimilate or reform them. So he's going to want to know what happens there. See, a couple of people have jumped in and said hi. So good to see you. Please drop questions if you have any. Something else here. Let's see. Ah, yes. So many items and information for the centering. So one of the things here is the world covets, I should say the bastions covet technology, information, anything that leads to the sundering or pre-sundering. They are very tight-lipped and they choose what goes in and what goes out. So the party will often have to figure out how they're going to deal with new information, new items, and whether or not they're going to turn them in or keep them. Another fun little tidbit for them. All right, something else that I have here is the next party, next mission will be in city. I already have a bit of an idea here. And again, feel free to ask questions or chime in if you have ideas to go along with this. I want to make this together with all of you if you decide to jump in and help. Part of the next mission in the city. So So, note here, some people feeling the connection with the energy or spirit of the world. There's a nuance to this particular story which the players are going to learn about, and this is their introduction to it for this particular session. And the more they deal with this and the more they go through, they're going to learn some of the history of the world, some of the information that goes along with it. So, this is going to be a fun little NPC side quest or pseudo main quest that they can jump through if they choose to do so. One of the big things when it comes to creating a D&D session, a Pathfinder session, even Call of Cthulhu Rifts or any of the other tabletop RPGs is you're going to have a main plot. Like right now I'm creating the main plot of this, but that does not mean your players are going to follow it. They could jump around, they could just decide they're going to ignore it altogether. They could find and build their own quest just by interacting with the NPCs or the world around them. You need to be flexible. And I love when they do stuff like that. Anytime they decide to do something on their own, anytime they decide to build a campaign just by their own actions, it's probably one of the most amusing things I've ever dealt with as a DM in any campaign, any TTRPG out there, because that's when you know the players are invested. That's when you know they really want to build something with not just their characters, but with you as the DM and the world that they're in. So let them build their own quests, let them build their own journeys. But also, don't forget to take their backgrounds and put it in there as well. Alrighty. So this is an ongoing thing again. I wanted to make this so it's congruent with the timeline of the world. So this is not the first time this has happened, but it's the first time they're going to deal with it. All right. Now, one other thing, if you've seen my more recent video, my number one rule as a DM, I'm very particular when it comes to letting people take actions and let the actions run their course. And part of this is I choose my words and the way I phrase it properly, because this gives the players agency to choose how to interpret it, how they want to act according to what is being stated. So as you notice, I put in that aspect of acquiring them. So this doesn't mean they have to arrest them. They could go in any way, shape, or form of trying to get this particular individual to go with them. Give them the choice, give them the agency, watch where it goes. All right. So this is a lot of writing that goes into this, putting your thoughts out there, writing a story, getting it going in that particular fashion. This is actually kind of boring for a lot of people when they have to watch it or they listen to it. But for some people, when you start thinking about it, you get into it, it gets to be real fun to imagine what they can do, imagine what you do in their place. So, one of the other fun parts here is to create foreboding. Get the players, get the ambiance to go through. There's something, there's tension, there is reasons to think about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. Building tension isn't always setting the mood, putting the ambiance, sending a whole bunch of monsters to people. A lot of the times it's building a situation where the players just have to think about it. It sits in the back of their mind and they wrestle with moral implications or pro versus con, or even just, hey, is this going to change my character in a way that I don't want it to? So little comments like this go a long way to setting the mood and creating tension for your players. Now, we've gotten to a point where I have the setup, I have the lead. So here we give the players choice. Now they get to decide what they're going to do once they find the individual, but you have to prepare for as much of the possibilities there are. I like to give 3 possible routes as baseline. That way I can go and modify or tweak them if the players go a little bit beyond or a little bit under what it is I have thought of. So I'm going to start with the simple one. So option 1, simple one. They just follow orders to a T. They go in, they grab the NPC, they bring them back. Number 2, and then the next one is they talk to the NPC, they learn what's going on, they make their own decisions based off of what the NPC is doing. And number 3, is they ignore it and they help the NPC flee or hide. Now, these are very broad strokes. So each of these can lead to different outcomes. Each of these can lead to different ways they go on. And from here, you have to decide, how do you want to play with this? How do you want to go through with it? Is there a baseline that you want to run with as the outcomes of each of these particular choices? For me, I have 2 outcomes that I would like to see happen. And based off of how they interact, one of those 2 options are going to play out. However, again, They could surprise me. I kind of hope they surprise me. All right, I'm not going to do much from here, but it'll give away too much, at least on this stream. Something I have going on here is option A, everything goes the way it is, and the player comes back. Old lady leaves them hanging with a moral gray zone, just saying, at least he came back. Option B, players decide to go against the orders that were given, and there are different consequences that happen with this. So, based on each action that they take, one of these two will happen. Or, as always, something completely different could happen. Now, so all of this is good, but we're going to break away from this for a moment, and I'm actually going to introduce a couple of different things that I use as well to build my campaign. So, how many of you run VTT or virtual tabletops? If you do, there are tools out there that can help you build the game, help you play it online. I do a lot of virtual tabletop for one of my other campaigns. I actually run two right now, one of them live, one of them virtual. So this one I generally run live, but I want to showcase how to do the virtual tabletop style as well. So one of the tools that I use is called 2-Minute Tools. If you haven't found this one, great, wonderful. You can create tokens on this one. I mean, we can turn around and let's go with the fun one. Let's go Warforged, because that's what we were just talking about. You have a list of all of these little icons that you could use for Warforged. So we're going to do a quick one. We're going to play with this one here. Click on it, and then you can come here and change all of the colors you want to do. Line art, shadowing, even the eyes, outfit. So we can change the scale, and you can watch it in real time, I should say, of how the colors change. Even details, we can turn around and change the way they look. You can change your gradients. See how they play out. Even accents, we can turn around and play with this as well. It's not quite right. There we go. And you can play with all of these to make your character exactly how you want it to look. And then you've got your token. And all you have to do is all layers, shadow, eyes. You can even go down and individually work with each piece. And then you just download it, and right there you've got it. So quickly you can work with that. Now, why does this make a difference? Because then you have this program called Owlbear. Note, I am not promoting any of these. I'm just showing the tools that I use. I know a lot of people do promotions for stuff like this. I'm not affiliated with them. They're just things that I have used and I particularly enjoy. You'll note I actually have some things here that I've played with. So we can take this, drag it in. Oop, I forgot I took rid of that map. Wow. I forgot I took all of these out. Also, these are subscription based, so if you don't have the subscription, you're going to have limited space to work with this. But right here, I've got a map that I have my players building on. I'm going to use it for Owlbear. And then you can take those same tokens down here. You can go through a bunch of the different tokens. So if we go to characters, monsters, I can turn around and grab myself in Etten if I wanted to. And there we go. Now I got a monster to play with. And you'll note down here, I've already got the group in here. They're in this little area. But it even has Fog of War, which is really nice because you can open it and close Fog of War through your tools over here. You can draw lines. You even have measurement tools. So if you need to figure out what your spacing is, you can do that. Pointers, so you can see where you're at on the map, circle things if you want them to see it, and even type and undo things and such. So very fun little tool to play with here. 2-minute token generator. Now, something for all the people out there, and this one I am enamored with this particular program that I use to build this. This is actually a JPEG that I exported from a different program for the dungeon here and here. So for that one, if you haven't seen it before, it's called Dungeon Alchemist. Let me load that up for you all real quick. So you've had a few more people stop by. Feel free to say hi whenever you want. Okay, right here I've got a completely blank map, and you have all sorts of tools here. I mean, you can draw rooms, you can do individual removing rooms, you can edit rooms, you can do all that. You can create all sorts of things. So let's just go with the village real quick. Let's go with town square. And you can even come in here. This is just basically a blank floor. You can add in doors, windows, walls, lights, and even just objects. So if you were to click all of this on and you just want to read a quick map, you'll see in the bottom corner here, it says 18 by 15. That's the size of the map. Each one of those is a 5 by 5 square, so one placement for a mini. So let's go with a 20 by 18. Once you create the space, you can click the checkbox and it will generate. And it generates everything that's in here. Now, this one doesn't have a whole heck of a lot in there, which isn't a problem. But the reason why I point this out is it's already got the walls, it's got the door, it's even got certain items in here. If we take that away, let's try and do something that's got a bit more to it. So let's go with skeletal, let's go with castle and dungeon cell. So let's go with a 20 by 20 now, something a little bit bigger, and do the same thing. And notice it takes a little bit longer because it's going to have more assets that it uploads to work in here. And then, boom. You've got pillars, you've got doors, you have a bench here, you even have the torches on the side that you can work with, and little pieces along the way that just add ambiance to it. So, quick one like that. Or you can actually create your own maps. And to show you exactly how detailed this can get, I'm going to pull up one of my maps that I created for a different campaign. And you'll note this one, it's black. And the reason why is because I've actually turned off the lighting here. So you can actually change it, night, day, dusk, dawn. You can add or remove light. So we add in the light. You can see it's very different from what it looked like before. And then we bring it back down, and this adds the ambiance. So if you ever wanted to create a dungeon where it exemplifies not having dark vision, this would be that particular style. Now, I'm going to show you one of the biggest features of this particular program that I truly enjoy, and that is this little thing right here. You can toggle view mode. Right now, it's your top-down view like you would see all of your maps. Click it again, and you now have a semi-3D view of the dungeon. You can even change how you angle it, so you can see it from different angles and how it's built. And then you click it again, and now you have your flat map. So you can switch back and forth between each of them. However, that is the fun part. My biggest thing that I love about this one is being able to actually work with your terrain first person. You can actually jump in here and interact with the dungeon and move through it. So you could actually come in here, and if you wanted to show your players what it looked like while they're in as their characters from their perspective, this allows you to do so. The only thing I haven't seen yet is you can't actually play in here, so you're not going to have multiple people in here with their characters to play. But you can show it off, you can show them what it looks like. So if you ever needed to give them something visceral to work with, or they don't quite understand what it is they're seeing, you've got it right here. I've used them a few times and it's made a big difference. Now let's give you the actual look for what it is here. And this is what it looks like. You can even turn on and off and interact with the terrain if it can be interacted with. You can do something as small as stonework here. I've got bone piles. And this was an older one before they updated some of their packs, but they even have hidden doors that you can work with. This is an old version. They've actually got updated ones that actually blend in with the walls, but you can play around with that. I believe you can actually work with Hero Forge and import tokens. As you see, another hidden door. Because with those tokens, you can even toss in monsters to show where they're at. You might want to fight some trolls. You got some trolls. So, one of my favorite programs to work with to build maps. We can go into that in another video if you want me to show you how to actually create those maps. So, back to writing the actual campaign. When you give them choices, and again, let them have agency, let them choose what's going on, keep in mind improv, it's a DM's best friend, best tool. So continuing from here, so they got the outcomes, they got the PC, they got that. Now this is a very short campaign, or sorry, I should say campaign. This is a short mission that will then lead to the rest of the campaign. But even though it's short, this is all they're going to have to do. They're going to come in, they're going to find the NPC, they're going to deal with a particular NPC. You can create length to it based off of silence. Something I did in one of my other campaigns is I put them into a situation. And this particular one, I'm trying to think back where it was. Ah, yes. They were in a town that had been destroyed. And they came across the remains of the people who had lived there. And once they came across the remains, I told them what it looked like. I gave them the situation. I told them sounds, smell, what the world was like around them, what they saw, down to some details that were important. And then I just stopped talking. Silence provided them a chance to just respond, react, to absorb what I had just stated, what it is that their characters are seeing, to internalize it. And with that internalization, they spent a good 20, 25 minutes role playing between their characters what they were going to do, how they responded, what they felt to what it was they had seen in that particular moment. And it created a lot of personal investment into that particular part of the campaign. And this is the investment, this is the agency you want to give your players, because the more that they invest themselves into it, the more they're going to want to continue to play. So, with this particular setup, yeah, it's not a lot that I have to work with. So, now here comes the fun part. Where do you build drama? Where do you build that connection? How do you draw people in to the story with something like this? So, this is where we have, rather than quest hooks and mission hooks, you have emotional hooks. This ties back to knowing the players, having their background stories, knowing their alignments, knowing their racial or political influences based off of who and what they are in the session. So, with this, the players are considered low caste. They are peasants unto royalty, basically. So, one of the emotional hooks here is similarity. Make the NPC feel like one of them. So, if it feels like they can relate to this NPC, if it feels like this NPC is one of them, somebody that they could have grown up with, somebody that they could have joined the Iron March with them, somebody that they might have to deal with later, it makes them second guess themselves. It makes them look at the moral implications of this. It makes them think, would my character do this? Would I want to do this? And then they get to play from there. It creates that emotional attachment to what's going on. Conflict. Do others find the action undesirable? Now, with this, we already have part of that, and that's the old lady, where she asks, hey, are they going to come back different? Are they going to come back not quite themselves? It creates a bit of conflict because now you've got somebody who's not even involved in what your mission is, not even involved in what it is you're trying to do, showing they don't like it. They find a problem with it. So now we give in the aspect of, okay, I'm going to follow orders, but I could displease the people that I have to deal with, the NPCs that I'm going to run across. I could make them upset with me. What happens then? We see this in some video games. Skyrim's a good example of that, where you start making people mad at you. They're not going to deal with you. You take the wrong quest and you lock out an entire faction. Your choices in the game should have that same depth. Now, it doesn't have to be an immediate reaction. Like the lady just turned around and said, hey, are they going to come back themselves, different, whatnot? Nothing immediate happens. It doesn't come back until later, until after they've made their choice, that now this undesirable action plays through and the NPC comes back and makes a comment. So in this case, at least they came back. Now you've got this. It's not giving them permission to say, hey, you did the right thing. It's just the NPCs responding to what's happening around them. Conflict. One of the other big ones here. I mean, similarity, conflict, and now we get to have the other one, and that is desire. Now, desire is a really weird word to use here, but this comes down to what do the players desire? What do the players want? And this comes to you as the DM, GM running the game. you need to understand what it is that motivates your players. Okay. You hear a lot about this with murder hobos, or you hear about the common trope where bards are nothing more than seduce machines, or even just the aspect of you have the paladin who's always righteous and going, we're going to save everyone. But you also have the aspect that even if they're playing those particular characters, there's a motivation, there's a desire, there's something they want to accomplish with that character. Understand what that desire is. And from here, choose to give it or take it away. So, one of the players here in my campaign is not really invested in the town. They're not invested in the bastion itself. They have a very personal motivation for doing what they're doing. This just happens to be the best place to be in order to accomplish that. So, in this particular case, I want to do something to give them a reason to be invested. So now I have to, again, look at this. I want to create a sense that this NPC mirrors them. I want this NPC to feel like, hey, this kind of sounds like me, because now I'm giving them a reason to be a part of this. Whereas, let's say I had a character who was righteous, who's always like, I'm going to follow the law. I'm going to be that guy who I'm going to be the best person that this commander has. I want to be that perfect soldier. Cool. Now, by creating this tension, this conflict that's there, I can take that away from them. Sure, you're a perfect soldier, but part of being a perfect soldier is being able to protect the innocent. Now you're in here taking a potential innocent and turning them in. What did they actually do wrong? You don't know. You were just told what they did. You don't have the information. So now I can take away that particular side of their character and create that moral ambiguity. So give and take, desire. These are the emotional hooks that you can play with any of your particular missions that you send your players on, any quest that they're on, or even any hook that you want to put in there to get them to move forward. So with this, the next part is I want them to stay in town. I want them to be around. And there are a few NPCs that I have involved in here. And again, I built these NPCs first because I wanted to have the base NPCs. So I've got the General Smith, I've got the Smithy, I've got the Tavern, I have the barracks, I have the command center. I have all the places that they absolutely need to be in a place like this for your needs, your basic needs. But then I wanted to build on that. I wanted to create something that was special for this particular bastion that fit their particular characters because they're all here and now. I want this place to stand out to them. So he's created 3 NPCs. They're not core, but they definitely play a role. And depending on how the players interact, again, we get give and take from those particular NPCs. So here's the first one. We have Backstreet's Tavern. This is a good place for information and also information and background stories. All right, we have the fence. Now, this is always a good one. I mentioned earlier that technology and information from before the Sundering is pretty much immediately swept up by the Bastion's leaders. The fence, well, pre-Sundering information and technology, buy and sell. And the last one, because of how dark it is and how gritty it is, as well as this is a mostly militant location, people need a place to unwind. So I have, and yes, this is going PG-17 plus, but I have the parlor. Now, the parlor is a very nice way of stating a place in which you can find company for the evening. And you have a matron. Now, the matron gives rest and has access to high level officials. So, depending on how players want to do this, yes, I even put in this aspect of you want to find dirt, you want to blackmail people, you got somebody who's got that information because they deal with them on a personal level. So, I have this built in as well. Do I see this happening in every campaign? Do I see the need to do this in every campaign? No. You need to decide what fits best for your world, for your campaign, for your cities, and for your players. This campaign, we're all adults. I can add stuff in there like this. I played one campaign where they were all teenagers in high school. Completely different feel, completely different ambiance. And I kept it PG-13 for almost everything in there, even though the campaign was built to run for any age group. And most of them were adults when I did play. But I adjusted it for the players, for their age, for their understanding and their knowledge. So we have that in the campaign. Backstreet's Tavern, the Fence, and the Parlor. Now, what do each of these have in common? How do you deal with them? So one thing to do is players can, and often, say and do things that really just make no sense or they're completely out of pocket. I think there's a couple of other people, content creators I've watched where they showcase this and you'll see the comment of, wait, no, that was out of character. And it's meant to basically give some leeway for, I'm going to say something completely out of pocket or out of hand, and my character is not the one saying it, so they're not going to get in trouble for this particular thing. But then there are those people who forget that pretty much unless you say otherwise, this is all in game. So keep that in mind and have it so that your mainstream NPCs react accordingly. So Backstreet's Tavern so Backstreet's good equals calm, respectful, and paying. And of course, we have the opposites here. So bad equals arrogance, violent, and leeching. So if you come in there and you're just coming in for a drink, you're sitting down, you want to hang out, you want to grab some information, or you just want to be ignored, cool, you're the type of person this guy wants. If you're respectful, you treat people with the same courtesy you would want your character to be treated with, awesome, they'll do the same thing. And as long as you pay your tab, you're good to go. And this means that they'll help, they'll give information, if you can spell information properly. I am doing a lot of typos today. But on the contrary, could kick you out and possibly blacklist you if you're violent or arrogant. Charge you more for services, and possibly turn you into your superiors for certain actions and other things that you might do in the campaign. So these are things that can happen with this. Something else I want to note, any of you watching this, coming back through, seeing this, These are all bullet points. I haven't written things exactly how I want them to be stated. In fact, if we come back up here, we'll just go through from the beginning. 3 notes. Party returns Sebastian Drath, news about their information, a new view of their world. Bullet points. Commander, report to him what happens. Bullet points. The reason I do bullet points, and there are certain aspects where I will go a bit more into detail right here. Party will have their next mission. A bit more detail. But even here, it's not a story, it's bullet points. And the biggest reason why you do bullet points or ideas rather than story is we go back to player agency. You never know when they're going to do something and just throw your entire plan out the window. So this lets you go back and say, okay, they did this. Can it fit into this particular idea? Does it not fit into this idea? Do I have to do something new? And that's why it's bullet points. You can figure it out along the way. Hello again for those visiting. All right, so then we have the fence. Good. Equals. Actually, I won't even do that one. All right, good equals secretive, honest, and vetted. So if you think about this, this is somebody doing something illegal. So one of the biggest things is they don't want to be found out, so you got to be secretive. Though they are doing something illegal, one of the biggest things is the idea of honor among thieves. Hey, Montemore, glad to be here as well. Glad to be live. But yeah, being honest, because he will know what the value of the information or tech is, or at least he'll have an idea of what it should be. And if you try to either fleece him for money, trying to say it's worth more than it is, or you try to gouge prices when you're buying something, he'll know and he'll keep that in mind. And then, of course, vetted. If you're coming in off the street and he don't know who you are, more than likely he's going to either hide what he truly does, or he's going to pack up shop and disappear on you. So I already covered most of these. Again, price gouging, loudmouth, bringing authorities, not a good thing, not going to like you, probably will never deal with you again. And one of the fun parts of this is if you feel that he's threatened, business, pick up shop, move, disappear, you won't find him again. What about being unknown and that giving you an advantage as they don't know how rich or poor you are? Can you elaborate on that? And the parlor. All right, one of the big things here is discreet. So discreet, not specifically secretive, but discreet meaning you just don't blab what's going on or tell everybody what's going on in that particular fashion. Kind, because of course you don't treat the courtesans correctly, you'll get kicked out, no problem, possibly even harmed on the way. And of course, one of the other things too is polite. I mean, kind and polite aren't quite the same thing here, and this is a nuance. being better reference that might have you upwards because of gives you a coin versus. All right, that's a fun one, and I see what you're going there. So yeah, I mean, if they believe that you have more money or they believe that you have other means of paying and lying about your status, they can look into it. Now, as a DM, I wouldn't specifically jump in and say that, yeah, that's something that you're going to have. I would actually do it where he pauses, he waits and says, you know what, I'm not going to do business with you in a moment. I don't know you. And instead, he'll turn around and go out and look into you. He'll go find information. He'll basically vet you himself and then come back. And if he finds out that, yeah, you've been lying, he'll price gouge you. Or if he doesn't find out and says that, hey, you're legit, he'll come back and give you a fair price. That's one thing you could do as a DM. The other one, too, is play it by ear. If the player is doing it on purpose, that they're not vetted and they're doing it on purpose to sound like they have more money, cool. Let them sound like they have more money and let the fence take advantage of it. But a lot of it comes down to playing it by ear or just how you want to play the personality of the fence itself. These are guidelines. As always, everything in here is a guideline. So play with it as you will. This is just how I will be playing my particular fence. So one thing here, again, going back to kind and polite. Kindness is how you treat someone. Polite is how you hold yourself. I like it too. Thank you. And polite is the social side of things. So just act nice, both to them and around them. Always fun trying to pull up the thesaurus in my brain to figure out which word I want to use here. But the bad one, of course, violent, pushy, and I'll just say vocal. Basically talking about the business, what they do there, and how they interact. So they want to keep it discreet. Like I said, the fun one here is matron gives rest, but also has access to high-level officials. If you're not discreet and you start blabbing your mouth, you get cut off real quick and potentially have other problems because you got to think if they have access to these high-level officials, then they could make your life more miserable because you don't have access or you're treated unfairly or you just have a bad rep and people know it. Bastions aren't exactly sprawling metropolises like they could be, but definitely word gets around. All right, so now we have that. So we're going to build a bit more here. Knowing your players, I said this earlier about building your NPCs and other things around your characters. So one of the things here is one of the characters I have, their background is they used to drink a lot. They were an alcoholic, and it caused problems. So player A make player A link to the Backstreet Tavern. Making sure that they were regular, they're known there, they've got a history. Now, based on how they continue this forward, it could either continue with that particular aspect of the campaign, it could give them a bonus, it could come in later where one of the party members decides to be obnoxious and gets themselves blacklisted. They could use their history with this and try and help ease them back in. But that gives a link to that as well. Okay. Okay, player B is linked to the fence. Now, this particular one is, they're all about information, their study, they gather, they want to be part of the underground network that is inside the bastions. So they're linked to the fence because that's how they got into this particular one. So potentially a mentor or guide to the underworld. And this here is how you can quickly turn around and build a character's backstory into the game. just a simple NPC. One aspect of the character is, hey, they were an alcoholic. Cool. How does that play into this? Boom, you got a Backstreet's Tavern. Or you have your rogue, your thief, your assassin, somebody who's more of the underground nature. How did they learn? Who do they interact with? What is that network? Boom, you've got an NPC that links that particular side of it. It's not their entire background, but enough of it that it feels like it makes sense. So now we get to choose. So I don't want to jump in and throw all of these NPCs at the same time. This is going to be a session. We're only going to be playing for a couple of hours. This mission could take anywhere between 1 day to 3-4 days, depending on how quickly they move through. What is the emotional connection they have with it? So keeping that in mind, you don't want to put too much in here and get invested so much that it feels like it's dragging on. Learning timing for when you give information, when you introduce pieces, when you introduce NPCs, that timing is also a good thing that pays for the campaign. There are many DMs, and I fell victim to this when I first started becoming a forever DM, is I would give so much information that players wouldn't know what's the important piece. They just know there's this list that you have to deal with. And I learned that breaking it down into smaller pieces made it so it's easier to digest, and the players can choose what's the most important piece to them. What does it fit for their character in that world? So at this point in time, we've got the initial, they've got the NPC, they're dealing with that. That can be done immediately. Now, once they're done with that, there needs to be a layover period, a time frame between when the NPC is dealt with and when their next mission or quest is from within the game. That's a perfect place to introduce a background piece here. So one of these two NPCs could be handled. And I think I'm going to use the fact that you asked a question about the fence, and we will actually make it so the fence is the one that they deal with this particular time around. It's the first NPC they're going to meet that is not a typical NPC within a town or a village. Now the question comes, how do they meet this NPC? What would their reason be for meeting this NPC? Agency again. I'm going to say this a lot. You'll hear this in many of my videos. You'll hear this throughout my lives. But player agency. You want to give them the chance to decide if they want to be a part of this. But in some situations like this, you want to make it almost so tempting or so blatantly obvious that it seems stupid not to make that decision. But at the same time, you want to make it feel like they still have that agency, because they do. They could turn around and no matter what I toss their direction, they could say, you know what? Nope, I'm going to go do that. Cool, let them. But let's build this introduction for the NPC, the fence. So simple one, they're approached by the fence. Cliche, simple, straightforward. You don't always have to have something flashy in order to get them to be involved in the campaign. Sometimes the simplest thing is the easiest way of getting things started. One of my most predominant campaigns that I run, the very first thing that happens is you are mercenaries that are coming in on a caravan that you helped protect. Straightforward, simple, cliche, it's a trope, but it's so simple and so useful that it doesn't matter how new you are or how old you are, it makes sense. Now, this campaign is older than Skyrim, so no, I did not take it from Skyrim. All right, so Fence shows up, starts talking to him. Okay, plot hook. Simple, straightforward. Cater it somewhat to the character and what their play style is. So in this case, offer to buy information from their last mission. Offer to make them a regular since player B is now part of the Iron March. It is well known throughout Bastion Drath and actually most of the Bastions that the Iron March is the group that goes out to hunt the frontiers. And more often than not are the ones that come back with pre-sundering information or items. So Defense, always in the know, realizes that their potential protege, or at least the person they introduced to the underworld, is now a lucrative business partner. All right, if they deny, simply escalate the opportunity before. So take into account your world, what it is that your currency is, how will they get paid, what is it? Is this a high gold value, high magic value style world? Is 1 gold considered a month's worth of pay for the average person, or is it 2 months worth of pay as a person, or is it a week's worth of pay for a person? So in this particular case, increase incentive means increase that particular one. And now it doesn't always have to be money. It could be other things too. He is a Fence. He has access to this pre-sundering tech, pre-sundering information. So he could offer to share that information of equivalent value if necessary. So increase incentives. So make the offer. So the first part is, you know what? You're part of the Iron March. I've been keeping an eye on you. I know what you're going to be getting into. Now I have the perfect opportunity for you since you're out there and I helped you get to where you are. I offer you this. I will give you a minimum of 5 silver for any piece of information you get. And of course, market value minus my 10% cut of any technology you bring back. That's the initial offer. Let's say they say no. All right, you drive a hard bargain. Same offer, but for every 3 pieces of information or 2 pieces of tech you bring in, I will give you a piece of information that you don't already have, that I've learned through the network and you don't have access to. Now you give them story advancement. It's not just something they can tangibly have, now it's story advancement, something that most players don't get. Yes, this might mean more work for you as a DM, but this also helps you invest them in the creation of the world. The more invested they are, the longer they play, the more fun it gets, the more you get to build a robust world in session. So that's another option. If they're not into that, then you offer them something physical. All right, instead of 5 silver, we'll do 2 gold. Seems like a jump, but again, you're making it so it's almost irresistible. Once they accept, if they accept, you turn around and you say, all right, cool, let's meet up, certain time frame, but you let them know that they keep an eye on going, by the way, bring the rest of your troop. I know you have friends now. Bring them with. This will benefit them too. So now you include everybody. It's no longer keeping people separate. They can still have their separate interactions, but this particular one, because it's a plot hook, it's a means of introducing this NPC, you want all of the players involved. Involve them. Bring them in. That's how you can get everybody to be in there. This also, for your question, is how you can vet your PCs without having to go through a convoluted process through the story. You already have someone there who can say, yeah, we can work with them. So now we've introduced the NPC. We've given them 2 opportunities to jump in. We've told them how we want to do this. Now, what is the purpose of this? Where are we going to go with this? So, why is the NPC approaching them? aside from getting information. Fence has heard about other Iron March expeditions being lost more than normal. Build a sense of growing unease. Show that this world isn't kind. Show that there's something escalating around them. It's unknown. There's no specific information. Okay. So now we give them the little bit more. They want to know more information. They want to see what's going on. They want to say, hey, I've got this information. You don't want to give them a lot. You just give them something that's already out there, something that's known, but maybe not explicitly stated. So he doesn't know the specifics, but he does have some information. Two were lost to the Vern Green. One was lost in a sanctuary, and another was lost to the rivers. Okay. This doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot to the group because they haven't dealt with some of that. Now, the Verdant Green, they're definitely going to understand because they've dealt with it. This is something they're dealing with in their current mission. So they can attribute it to it and go, oh, that makes sense. We just saw what happened to the previous expedition while they were part of the Verdant Green. So now you can tie it in. There's a recollection, but then there are two pieces that they don't have knowledge of, but they're now referenced to it. You're building the future. You're building suspense. You're building the knowledge of the world around them, giving them the idea this is more expansive. It's not this small little bubble. There's a lot more going on. So now we get a little bit of fun here. So let's play off of what they just did and see how they respond. So the fence wants the PCs to become regulars to find out if there's more going on than they're being told. This pushes that gray area. They just dealt with an NPC who was considered seditious, dissenting, because they were questioning the powers that be. Well, now you've got an underground network asking you to do something similar, to say, hey, is there something happening that we don't know about? Rather than being dissenting, they're trying to find information that's outside of public knowledge. Is this going to push beyond what it is that you're doing? Is this going to be beyond your moral code? Is this going to be something you want to do? This now gives the players, again, that moral question of how do they move forward with this? Let them decide. In this particular situation, there doesn't have to be options. You don't have to write out the bullet points of what happens here. Literally let the players decide yes or no. If they say yes, cool, move forward, let it play out. If they say no, don't argue it. Just be like, all right, no, that makes sense. I mean, you got to protect yourselves. Fence knows it. The more risk you take, the better chance it is you disappear. He doesn't want his regulars to disappear because if the regulars disappear, it might lead back to him. So if they say no, cool, let it go. If they say yes, hey, more fun for him. So let him make a decision. All right. So we go through this again. This is pretty much where we need to be for a session. There's not a whole lot missing here. We have the introduction to it. They come back. This is the purpose they want to do. They want to return to the Bastion. They want to deliver their news. And this is the result of their last mission. They find the commander to report to them. That's what they're supposed to do. Commander wants to know what happens. They're going to have downtime. They can train. They can rest. They have options that they can do while they're there. The commander specifically will want to know the details and any items or information revolving the Sundering. This is going to be a key thing that happens throughout the rest of the game. Next mission in city. So we already know they're going to be done in the Bastion. They're not leaving. I'm going to touch on this one. A lot of campaigns always revolve around going out and dungeon crawling or exploring the world or basically outside of established cities, towns, villages. You're only there to rest, repair, buy gear, or sell stuff. Having missions inside of cities actually creates a completely different feel, and it also teaches completely new tactics and ways for your players to understand their characters' skills and resources. So give them different ideas, different places, different locales to play their characters. It teaches them so much more. Descent among the populace, they're learning about the political atmosphere of it. They're learning about different nuances of the people in there. They're seeing the split between high bureaucrats and the regular people. They're noticing that it's not as shiny and polished as it looks. Person in question spreading information is considered seditious. This gives the clarity for what the Bastion feels is going on. Party has their duty of arresting or acquiring said individual. We have the first bit of tension coming in. Run across the old lady, and she basically comments on the aspect of, well, will he come back different or come back as someone else? What does that mean? They don't know. Players arrive at the home. Players have different ideas that they can do while they're there. 3 options. Now, this is a very big piece of the campaign. This is the question. This is the mission. This is what they're supposed to be doing. How do they go about it? 3 bullet points, 3 options, build from there, or follow it if they follow the same thing. Outcomes. What happens based off of their decision? 2 outcomes that I want to have happen, but always open to interpretation based off of things I don't expect. Expect the unexpected, but can't always prepare for the unexpected. Emotional hooks. Getting players invested. You want to create the emotional hook as you're going through the session, as you're going through the missions, as you're dealing with the NPCs. Create the similarities, create the conflicts, creates the desires. Creating NPCs to fit the narratives, to create NPCs that meet with your players, giving a way of connecting their backgrounds, their backstories. And creating the last half of it, the intermission, as it were, between one mission and the other, giving them something to do. A lot of DMs have this downtime idea that it's done behind the scenes. It doesn't have to be behind the scenes. You can literally play out the downtime. And there are some DMs who go full into the downtime. Hey, are you polishing your armor? Are you sharpening your swords? Are you bathing? Are you washing your clothes? Are you maintaining everything? Some DMs go that deep into it. Played with one gentleman who was creating his own tabletop role-playing game, and that's how he was. If you didn't state that you were maintaining your gear, he would have it deteriorate, and one time you're in battle and he'd roll for durability and your sword snaps. That's how he plays. Makes for very interesting sessions, especially considering magic was very, very, very rare in his game. So I had to learn how to use physics to mimic spells. I created a fireball using flour. All right, NPC attractions here. So, last and final piece here for this particular interaction. Rewards. How do you reward your players? They're not in combat. They're not fighting. You're not doing it based off of a challenge rating. You're not doing it based off of your typical XP charts. But at the same time, you're not doing anything that says there's a treasure chest waiting for you at the end. There's a hoard waiting for you there. There's hidden compartments. This is very straightforward. Find a person, bring them back. It's your job. You do your job, and at the end of the month, you get paid. There's no extra income from doing this. Talking to the fence, it's not an immediate payment for saying yes or no to doing what they ask. None of this says you get rewarded now. And that's okay. Delayed gratification is also part of the game. Not everything means you have to have an immediate reward. Build it, let it grow. The more they do, the more you can reward them later. However, experience. Everything your characters do brings them experience. So you have two options here. First one is there are those that play with milestones or story-driven leveling ranges. Is this where they should get another level? Is there more to the story that needs to happen before their characters have enough worldly experience that they would be considered leveled up? The other one is XP, of course. How much experience did they earn per interaction here? What is the baseline for this? So look at your character's levels. This is a level 1 group. So this is level 1 XP. It doesn't take a whole lot to go up another level. They've already gone through one mission. They're coming in on a second. This isn't highly invested, but depending on how they respond during it, adjust your XP accordingly. So I'm not pulling up the exact numbers, but let's just use this as an example. Let's say they need 1,000 XP to level. They're not in combat. They're just talking. They're bringing this person back. They're just having this interaction. It doesn't take a lot. If they just do the basic, they walk over, they grab them, they bring them back, they're done. It's not a whole lot. I'd give them about 200 XP a person. But let's say one of the players decides they're going to interact with the NPC. They're going to have a full-fledged conversation with them. That's an emotional investment. That's time investment that they did for this, for their character. That player invested time. That means invested time is XP. So let's say they ask a handful of questions, but they don't really get deep. It's just a matter of, what were you saying? Why don't they like you? And then they take them in. That's another 100 XP. But let's say they do a lot of talking. So they do a lot of talking. They try to actually understand them. They go into depth. They figure out a lot of what's going on here. Absolutely. Double the XP. Let's say a player decides to investigate before taking action. There's 100 XP right there. Just because they looked around. The more they do to interact with the missions, the more they do in order to interact with the world around them, they should be rewarded for doing so. So yes, if they do a lot of questions and investigate, 200 base XP. Interaction based. So that's 500 XP throughout this entire session. It's half a level. That makes sense. The more they are invested, the more they should get rewarded for their investment in their character, in the story growth, in how they interact with the world. Now, these aren't specific numbers. This isn't exact science. This is, for me, gut feeling. Choose for yourself. Now, the other side of this is I'm a milestone person. While I can work with XP, while I can play with XP, I'm a milestone person. I like the aspect that as they get to certain points, it makes sense that their characters grew. It makes sense that their interactions provided them with enough to advance in what it is that they're working with. Plus, as much as some people will argue with this, I appreciate all of the players being at a similar level. I mean, if you don't show up to the game, you're not in the session, you're not getting rewards. But you're there consistently, you're going through all of the sessions, yeah, you're getting your advancement. But most of my players are only about a level apart, unless they die. Then they got to work their way up again. So, reward here isn't about in-game physical rewards. It's about experience, and it's about growing the world. Later on, 2-3 sessions down the road, when they bring something back and they go to the fence and they're like, hey, guess what? I got this for you. Then they see the reward from saying yes to the fence. When they finish up their missions for the bastion at the end of their cycle, whether it be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, they get rewarded for continuing to be part of the Iron March. Delayed gratification. But they'll get things along the way while they're doing their missions out in the world. They go into a sanctuary, they can find items. They combat monsters whilst they're out traveling. They can get things from there as well. There will be chances to gain rewards along the way. All right. So I hope for a lot of you this has given an idea on how to build a session. I thank those who stopped by and watched. As always, I welcome you to the tavern, and I look forward to seeing you again as we have more of this out there. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well, and always have fun.